Okay, so I've been hearing a story from lots of people I know that complain that they can't trim aircraft, and they blame the simulator and they say it's not realistic and they can never get the aircraft to trim and the aircraft's rubbish, and they complain and go on and on about it, and the nose keeps going up or down all the time and they can't control it, when the thing that's actually going on is the simulator's behaving accurately. So I'm going to do a bit of an explanation of what's going on with wings, how wings work, and what's happening to the aeroplane that's causing you to have to trim. So we can see on the screen here, I've got a diagram of a wing, and the blue lines are the air passing over the wing. So the way a wing works, if you weren't aware of this, is the air hits the wing, and because of the shape of the wing, the air going over the top of the wing has to go further. So if you think about it, the same amount of air is going over the top of the wing that is going underneath the wing, but the air going over the top has to go further, so it is therefore thinner, it's being spread out more. And because of basic physics, if you have less pressure on this side, so the same amount of air covering a larger space, then the wing will naturally try to push in the direction where there is less pressure. Does that make sense? So there's thicker air here, thinner air here. So the wing is going to drift in that direction. So that's how an aeroplane wing works. So by having a propeller on the front of the aeroplane to push it along, it means that there's a point where the wing generates enough lift to keep the weight of the aeroplane in the air. So if we have a look at a diagram of a Cessna, the wing is here, the engine is here. So if we've got the tailplane over here. In normal level flight, the propeller is pulling you along. The airflow is falling over the wing. And it has to be said, there's a small amount of airflow that goes much higher speed from the propeller, but the wings are very wide. So yeah, the airflow is pouring over the wing, and the wing is trying to push the aircraft up, while the weight of the aircraft is being pulled by gravity down. So at a given speed, perhaps 70, 80 knots, the aeroplane is going to balance that out, so the amount of lift generated by the wing suddenly equals the weight of the aircraft pulling it down to the ground. Now all of the tailplane really does, although it might generate a tiny amount of lift, it's working kind of like a rudder. So all it's doing is ensuring that the tail stays behind the wing, and the elevators at the back of the tailplane allow the tail to be moved up or down in relation to the centre of gravity. So let's go and have a look. I've drawn another diagram here with some forces kind of drawn on it. So we have, this is where it gets critical and why trim is important. If we zoom in slightly while we're describing this. Most of the weight in a light aircraft is in the nose, it's the engine. Yeah? So the aeroplane is nose heavy. Most of the lift is generated by the wing, which is behind the engine. So at a given speed through the air, and remember the elevator is going to be used to hold the plane at a given attitude. And without changing the elevator, the balancing of these two forces has to match to stop the nose going up or down. Now the thing is, the faster you go, the more lift the wing makes. So if you go faster, the aeroplane, in relation to the tail, the nose will be lifted up by the wing. It's like a lever, if you imagine it. You're pulling from here. So the faster you go, the harder the pull is, so you lift the nose up the faster you go. If you cut the engine and then the speed of the aeroplane falls, you're not going through the air as fast, so the wing doesn't generate as much lift, and therefore the weight of the nose wins. So suddenly the nose starts to drop. And all you're doing when you're trimming an aeroplane is changing the angle of the elevator to force the aeroplane to be at the attitude you want to go level. So let's go into Flight Simulator and see it actually happen. So I've got a Cessna 152 flying along quite happily, and it's 0 on the vertical speed, It's doing just above 80 knots and I'm at 50% throttle, and it's just gently going along, balanced out. Yeah, so the lift from the wing is equaling the weight of the nose. Yeah, so the wing is lifting the nose. So I'm going to increase the throttle. So the airflow is increasing. So the wing is now beating the weight of the nose. Yeah? If I cut the engine, we're slowing down. The wing is now not going through the air as fast, so the nose is beating the lift from the wing and pulling us to the floor. If we go back to 50%, it will take a while to level out. I'll just leave it. It will go up and down and fishtail around for a while before it gets some equilibrium back. Because obviously it's like a bit like a roller coaster, and we're going to tend back towards level flight slowly. I'm just going to level the wings up. So you can see the plane is slowly but surely lifting and raising, but coming back towards a stable situation. So the way we can combat that, so if I open the throttle, we'll start climbing. There's more lift going over the wing, so the lift from the wing is beating the weight of the nose. Take no notice of air traffic control, by the way. So to combat that, if I push forwards on the elevator, I can force the nose down. So I'm beating the lift upwards from the wing by forcing the tail up, by pushing forwards on the stick. Now, to avoid having to keep pushing forwards, I can use elevator trim. So all elevator trim is doing, and there we go, I've just used elevator trim. I pushed forwards on elevator trim. So what I've actually done is caused the tail to be pushing upwards all of the time to match the amount of extra force the wing is generating over the weight of the nose. So it's all about just balancing forces. So if I was to cut the engine back, the nose will start to drop, and I can start trimming back, and I can keep the nose up. So now I am pushing the tail down to equal the amount the nose is trying to drop. So it's just about keeping the airplane in a balanced situation. Now it's worth pointing out, look, I'm doing this on purpose. I'm slowing down. The airplane's losing height, even though I'm keeping a level attitude, because the wing, although we're keeping the aeroplane straight, the wing is actually got a negative angle of attack to the air now. We're dropping. So it gets, I'm not going to get into it in this video, but it gets more and more complicated the more you think about it. That just because the aeroplane is pointing in a direction doesn't mean it's going that direction. We're actually skidding back down towards the ground. In reality, aircraft always skid through the air. They never fly perfectly the direction they're pointing. So there you go. I'm going to stop the video there. It was just a very quick description of what trim is actually doing. So dependent upon your speed, you will always have to trim an aeroplane. If you don't have to trim an aeroplane, it's trimming for you. Does that make sense? The only airplanes where you don't see such a marked effect are things like the pattern aerobatic planes, like the Extra and the Sukhoi. Mainly because their wing sections are much more symmetrical, so they don't generate lift in the same way. They use purely angle of attack to generate lift. So when their wing is travelling straight through the air, it doesn't generate force in one direction or the other, which helps them obviously if they're flying three-dimensional aerobatics, so they might be upside down or any angle through the air. It means the plane will fly in the direction it's pointing, or it will try to. Okay, so I'm going to stop the video there. So that's trim. There's no escaping it. If you speed up, you'll have to trim. If you slow down, you'll have to trim. All airplanes have always been like it.